All right, so I was in Vegas a couple weeks ago. This is the first session you'll see here at the Aria. It's a 1-2 $5 bring-in game. We're in for 500. Let's get into it. So one of the first hands I'm dealt in this session, I looked down at King, 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 Queen, single suited to the King on the button. And I don't normally play this hand, and I also didn't play it here, but I'm wondering if anyone out there does. So let me know down in the comments below. Here, look down at Ace, Ace, Jack 7, single suited to the Jack in the cutoff. There's one early position limp. I make it 20. Folds back to the limper. He also folds, so we take it down. So almost 2 hours into the session here, haven't really had much to play besides that aces hand earlier where everyone folded. Here I look down at King, King, 4-3, single suited to the King in the hijack. There's one early position limp. I make it 15, both the blinds and the limper call. So we're going 4 ways to a flop. Flop comes King 5-2 with 2 clubs. When my opponents check, I bet 35 and only the big blind calls. So we're going heads up to a turn. Turn brings an ace of diamonds. When my opponent checks, I'm just thinking of an amount to bet here that will allow me to get all the money in on the river as long as the club doesn't hit. And I settle on $100 and my opponent calls. So we're going heads up still to a river. River brings an 8, so obviously we still have the nuts here. And my opponent thinks for a little bit and checks. And I'm gonna push, but I'm just Hollywooding a little bit to potentially make him think I'm bluffing. I push for my remaining 275 and he's well in the tank here for over a minute. I really didn't think he was going to call. I mean, me having kings also with the straight, there's really not a ton for him to have. Maybe I get lucky and he gets some kind of 2-pair combo there on the turn. But he does actually make the call. And we, of course, show our hand and we're good. So scooping a pretty good sized pot here. So this next hand here is actually the very next hand dealt after that King, King, 4-3. As you can see, I didn't even get a chance to stack up all my chips. I look down at Ace, Ace, 10-3, double suited. There's an early position limp. I make it 20. The button, blinds, and the limper call. So we're going 5 ways to a flop. Flop comes King, Jack 3 with 2 diamonds. When it checks to me, I bet 80. And only the small blind calls, who's actually the same player from the previous hand. So heads up to a turn. So my opponent here only has about a pot-sized bet left. So I'm thinking as long as the turn brings a pretty clean card, I plan on pushing him all in. But unfortunately, that doesn't come to fruition as the turn brings a 9 of hearts, probably the worst card in the deck. When he checks, I think about betting here, despite the fact that this card brings in, obviously, Queen 10. But I decide to check, take a free card. So going heads up still to a river. River brings a 6 of spades, so no help to me. And my opponent's counting out chips, and he settles on $120. And I'm just trying to think of a hand I beat here, and I'm not coming up with too many. Me having the diamonds obviously makes it a little less likely he had a flush draw on the flop. His most likely holding is going to be some kind of King X, with a straight draw. Even if he didn't hit the straight, I mean, there's plenty of combos on the flop like King 10-9 or King 9 Queen that now beat me, obviously. So I decide to fold. Let me know what you guys think. Here I look down at Ace, Jack 9-7, single suited to the ace in middle position. I open a 15. The cutoff, button, and both the blinds call, so we're going 5 ways to a flop. Flop comes King 7-5 with 2 hearts, checks with the big blind who bets 30, and I decide to fold. Here look down at Ace, Ace 7-2, single suited to the ace in the hijack. I open a 15, the cutoff, button, and small blind call, so we're going 4 ways to a flop. Flop comes Ace 9-4 with 2 clubs. When it checks to me, I bet 50, and only the small blind calls, who is the same player that's battled with me in the previous couple hands I covered. So heads up to a turn. Turn brings another 4, which should about wrap up the hand. My opponent checks, and I don't want to bet too large here as his most likely holding is going to be some kind of a flush draw. So I bet 85 and he calls. So we're going heads up still to a river. River brings another 4 and my opponent checks to me again. And I'm just trying to think of an amount here to bet. He does have a little bit over a pot-sized bet, but I don't really want to pot it and kind of scare him off as, I'm not really sure what he has and what I'm going to really get called by. So I settle on $200 and he thinks for a bit and calls. So I turn over my hand and we're obviously good. Here, look down at King, King, Jack 7, double suited in the hijack. There's a couple early position limps. I make it 25, only the big blind and one of the limpers calls. So we're going 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes Queen 8-4 with 2 spades. When it checks to me, I bet 45 and only the big blind calls. So we're going heads up to a turn. Turn brings a 5 of diamonds, bringing in the backdoor flush draw. My opponent checks, and I also check, so still heads up to a river. River brings a jack of diamonds, bringing in the backdoor flush draw. My opponent checks, and I consider betting here as a bluff because I don't really know what I beat, but this guy doesn't seem like he really likes folding, so I decide to check back, and he turns over his hand. He has 8-5, 2-2. And pretty adventurous call by him on the flop, but he's going to take it down. Here, look down at ace, 4-4 rainbow under the gun. I open a 15, and we get 5 callers, so we're going 6 ways to a flop. Flop comes 9-6-3 with 2 spades. When it checks to the big blind, he pots it for 90, and I decide to fold. So here, look down at jack, 6-6, single suited to the jack under the gun. I limp. Player to my left makes it 15. There's 1 late position caller, and I call, so we're going 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes jack 8-7 with 2 diamonds. I lead 25. Player to my left folds, and the late position player calls, so we're going heads up to a turn. Turn brings in the front door flush with the 2 of diamonds. I check, late position player bets 50, back to me. And just for reference, this is the same guy that's pretty much been involved in like every hand. He also had that 8-5, 2-2 earlier. So it's pretty hard to put him on a hand. I mean, I think he is capable of a bluff here, but not only do I have to call the 50, then if I brick, I also got to think about what I have to call on the river. And it's probably going to seem kind of tight, but I decided to lay it down. Let me know what you guys think. Here, look down at ace, jack 10 rainbow in middle position. There's an early position limp. I make it 20, and we get 4 callers, so we're going 5 ways to a flop. Flop comes 7-7-2 with 2 diamonds. When it checks to me, I think about betting here with the nut flush blocker, but decide to check. Person next to act bets 55, folds back to me, and I also fold. He later tells me he had 7-6-5-5 double suited, so he's going to take it down. Here, look down at queen jack 10-9 rainbow in middle position. I open a 15, and both the blinds call, so we're going 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes king 7-7 with 2 diamonds. When both players check to me, I see bet 25, and they both fold, so we take it down. Here, look down at jack 10-10, single suited to the jack in the small blind. There's an early position raise 15, late position caller, and I call, so we're going 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes ace king 4 rainbow. I check, original raiser bets 25, late position player folds, and I call, so we're going heads up to a turn. Turn brings a deuce, no help to me. I check, my opponent bets 95, and I fold. I ended up playing a little while longer, didn't get a ton to play. The calling station in C5 had also left, so that made the game quite a bit worse, so I decided to rack up. What's up, guys? Just finished up at the Aria. I'm actually over at the Win waiting on another game, which will probably be the next session. Game was pretty good to start. Had the 1 player in C5 who was a calling station. I didn't get much until I got the king 4-3. Ended up flopping a set open-ended, turned the straight, river came clean. I ended up full doubling up against that same guy. Got aces directly after that. Ended up flopping pretty big hand, flush draw, straight draw. Turn brought the worst card, and I kind of bricked out. But then I got the aces against the same player. Ended up flopping top set, turning a boat. River brought 3 4s. I didn't think he was that strong, but someone else said he probably had pocket 9s. I don't know. I bet 200 at the end. Maybe I could have bet a little bit more, but really after that game kind of got a lot worse. The aforementioned calling station player left, and just game just went worse. I went from 1100 to my peak down to pretty much what I had there, cashing out. So pretty good game. I was in for 500, out for 821, so a profit of 321. If you guys enjoyed it, please hit the like and subscribe button. If your viewing experience could have been better, please let me know how down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.